queermusicals.com podcast. Hello and welcome to Represent, the queermusicals.com podcast. My name's James Lovelock and I'm here today with Layton Williams and Liam Mower. So I'll get you to introduce yourselves first. So let's start with you, Liam.
Hello everybody and hi guys. My name is Liam Mower and I am a dancer at the moment with New Adventures, Matthew Bourne. That's it. That's me.
Hey y'all, my name is Layton. I'm an actor, singer, dancer extraordinaire, all of the things, whatever you run me a check for. Super happy to be here with my Bezzy. And yes, God. Hi.
Excellent, great stuff. So you two kind of go back quite a long way, yes? Because you both had the same first job, I believe. Yeah.
Correct. We go back like a long time ago.
Way back.
Literally one of my original sisters. Like I've known Layton probably the longest out of like our whole friendship group really. So we met when I was maybe like 13, 14 and you'd just come into Billy Elliot when you were
11ish. Yeah. Because we're a couple of years apart, but yeah, I literally say the same thing. Me and Liam we're best friends now, but like obviously back then we were just kids. Liam was like a couple of years older than me in the show. He was already actually Billy, and I was coming in to train to be Billy. Obviously he was Queen Bee. He like looked up to him, like he's just like that growl. So and then we worked on Matthew Bourne together. What, a decade later? Goodness knows, years and years later. And then all of them kind of like Billy reunions and stuff. We used to like just know when you know you get on with someone, and then finally we got to work with each other. It was like, okay, you're a sis, and we've been inseparable.
Literally. And it's like
I like that word.
Wow.
Inseparable.
And it's like it's actually wild when I didn't think as a kid or like being younger doing the show that we would be working together later in life. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't really know how life is going to work out, and it's just like amazing that we had that reconnection in the New Adventures work. Layton did Lord of the Flies, then we did The Carman together, and we sort of that's when we really like fully reconnected, like as adults, and we were like, right, like
you're a gooder, you're a keeper,
you're a gooder,
yeah,
you're a real gooder. But it's just amazing how life sort of like unfolds, and people come back into your life, and you know, it's amazing.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great that that's happened, and Billy Elliot's a funny one because every time that now I go and see a show, I look at see who's in it, and it's like, oh yeah, they were in Billy Elliot, and so there must be, I don't know how many boys played the role of Billy eventually by the end. Must be, I think it was over 50.
50, really,
in the UK.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Yeah.
But to be fair, it went on a few more years after me, and then it went on tour, and then there was just another one, wasn't there?
And like they did a version in Singapore.
Yeah.
It went to Broadway for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's Australia.
Yeah,
It went global.
I was actually fuming because I was so bitter because I was Billy,
Broadway,
like
baby.
whilst Broadway and Australia happened. I was just like, hello, and they kept taking all of these other people to these exotic places, and I was just like,
Mugged off.
absolute muggins, clown face over here. I thought, do you know what? In my moment, I was like, do you know what? Maybe they just need me to just hold fort in London because I'm so iconic.
That's definitely what it was.
That's what I was thinking when I was 12, by the way, not now. Obviously, I don't call myself iconic. I let y'all do that.
So one of the things that interests me is going into, so when you were, say, I don't know, 10, 11, whatever it was, when you started training for Billy and going into this kind of big theatre environment, and then thinking a little bit also about growing up gay as well, and that being quite a different, a kind of a different way to kind of get to know your identity and that kind of thing. Is it something that people you were aware of when you were in Billy, or is that something that kind of happened a bit later for you?
Oh, defo. For both of us, we've been there. We were queens.
Absolute queens.
Yeah, like raging queens, but like in the best way. And actually, I don't know if you agree, I think it was just the most beautiful space to kind of be who you wanted to be at times. We ran into some, hurdles at moments, and I'm not going to drag people, but, there were moments where it's like, you need to let me do exactly what I need to be. There was moments where I pushed back. I was, could you imagine? Even back then, I would speak my mind. I knew what was right from wrong-ish when it came to morals and when it came to like being just you. Like I knew that like, well, if I can do this at home, I should be able to do this here. So no, they were like, we were allowed to kind of prance around and just be fabulous. That's the whole vibe of the show as well, especially with the Michaels. Like it was just accepted.
Totally. We had the number, obviously, Express Yourself, and where we literally in workshopping the show, like we were, they broke our barriers down completely. They taught us it was okay to like dress up. It was okay to just completely be authentically yourself. And like I remember being 12, 13 and starting out in the show, and obviously meeting like the older queens in the cast, you know, the adult cast.
Yes.
There were half the cast were queens.
By the way, when we say queens, we do mean just gay men.
Gays.
Yeah. Like when you're listening, and when we say girl, like Liam's my sis, like we don't think we're talking about our sisters. That's the language that hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you've been new, and if not, I guess strap in. Urban Dictionary.
Sort of like meeting the older, you know, gay men specifically of the company, and just them fully
mesmerized,
embracing us. And also you just look up to them because it's immediately something tangible, something you can like hold on to and completely relate
something
to,
you can understand,
and see them so authentically themselves and prance around like us. You know, they were playing minors in the show, so they were like, yeah, Billy, oh, why, man? But then like come off stage and be like,
hey girl.
Like,
yeah.
We loved that as kids, I think. I really held on to that.
Yeah, because we didn't really get that in Hull and in Bury, let's be honest.
Yeah, because we're northern girls.
Yeah.
Like, we've sort of grew up in harder sort of circumstances. Like, my family are amazing, but I grew up on a council estate. I went to a rough school, and, you know, like, times got harder. Times to sort of be a young gay lad or a young dancer.
Ditto. We basically are the Billy Elliot story at this point. Totally. You actually went to Royal Ballet first, but I went to a theatre school. Like, we very much so northern boys, plucked from where we were, thrown into the show. Like, art imitating life. I could not express that more. Like, it literally was that.
We stayed on script, safe to say.
We did, yeah. Very on brand of us. Yeah. And we're still here. We're queer. Get into it!
I think that's one of the wonderful things about Billy Elliot as well. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit older than you, probably about 15
Not
years.
Not a little child. I'm joking.
You know, this happens every time I do a podcast.
I even drag him. He's older than me by 2 years. I'm owning that.
Literally, I'm only 2 years older than you.
But I let you know. Yeah, but you're like, 30 this, 30 that. I'm like, I don't know her.
She will do soon.
Exactly.
But for me, I first watched Billy Elliot when I was in my mid-20s, I think, and it was just seeing any sort of queer representation on stage. And it's quite small in Billy Elliot, really, in terms of the fact that it's expressing yourself, and then there's the moment between Billy and Michael a bit later on.
I think that's like a huge moment in musical theatre history that actually brush over a little bit. I'm like, two young boys kissing on stage. Like, what other show can you name me that happens in? Like, it just doesn't, like, and it's not like a full-on kiss, obviously. I mean, we just used to be burping into each other's ears, to be honest, like, licking each other's ears. Oh my God, me and my Michael, we used to be so naughty. It's just like trying, I shouldn't really say this, but hey, trying not to laugh. Like, this is what I do on podcasts. Like, I spill so much tea. But yeah, like, that scene is so beautiful. And the way that, like, Billy kind of just accepts Michael and goes, like, it's not a bit of me. Deep down is a bit of us. But, like, it's not a bit of me, but, like, you do you and I'm still going to be your best friend. Like, that is just so, I think that's pretty huge, especially for when it was. What we're talking?
2005, maybe?
2005.
Well, the musical, 05, but the movie, late 90s?
Yes,
is it like 99 or something?
And in the movie as well, when Michael comes back, I think Michael's like, well, she's very androgynous, so I don't know whether she's trans or whatever. It's giving they, them, like femme queen. You know, when they're sat in the audience and that.
Fashion girl.
Yeah, a fashion girly. And I kind of love that as well. Yeah. Surely it's bound to be like a actual movie soon. Do you know of like the musical movie? You know, like they just did Matilda.
Yeah, that would be
because that would eat. Obviously, going to get a cameo. I know who you're playing. Yeah. Who am I going to be? Braithwaite?
Let me think.
I think you'd be a lovely minor, Layton.
Oh, I'm going to have to get one word. It won't just all be all be minors.
I think they sort of, in a way, I think it's sort of beautiful the way they portrayed Billy and Michael's relationship. Sort of, I liked that they didn't make a huge thing of it, and I think they did that in the musical as well. It was just so matter of fact and so like this is their relationship, I mean, it's a friendship, it's not a relationship.
Yeah.
But, you know, when they have a little peck on the cheek in the second half.
And then when he
I
runs
love
back
how
and
they made
kisses
it not
him.
like, they made it not such a huge thing. It's because it shouldn't have to be.
Yeah.
It's just two young boys.
And that happens. Do you know what I mean?
It
You
is.
mess about, whatever, young and da-da-da, and then it's like, oh, that's not a bit me, that's a da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
The most beautiful thing is when he's leaving with the suitcase at the end, and then Billy runs back and just gives him a kiss on the cheek and just like, see you, Michael. It's just like so simple, but so beautiful.
I used to hear people sobbing.
Oh my
like,
God,
When
I
you'd
know.
walk up the central aisle at the end of the show, and you'd like catch people's eyes because you'd have to keep your head down. But I just remember seeing people bawling.
I'll tell you about this story when the mouse went past, and I was like,
mouse.
dude, and I went, ah! I screamed and ran, and the whole audience started laughing.
That Victoria Palace was absolutely
Riddled.
riddled.
I was there yesterday, actually. Do you know when you walk by? I always
Mm.
have a moment when I walk by Victoria, and I'm just like, I
Nostalgia.
proper just have like I always just soak it up a little bit. I'm like, this is where everything began. It's crazy, isn't it? But we didn't have that building.
And the refurb.
The
it's
refurb
completely
gives.
different now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't recognise it anymore.
Yeah. But that moment you were talking about, that bit at the end with Michael, was always, that was the moment. Because I really fell in love with the musical. I saw the musical more than a few times.
Go on, be honest. How many?
Oh, no.
No, it's fine.
I probably saw it in all over 100 times.
Oh wow.
Wow, okay.
And I feel-
okay, so you saw it. Okay,
Yeah.
probably
So-
more than me.
Yeah, so I feel it's like one of those things. I am going to keep this in the podcast. I'm going to be brave
No,
about it.
of course,
but-
as you should. Like, there's no shame about when you see you enjoy something. Get into it.
because I think for me,
Who was best? Joking. Joke.
Do not cut that bit out. And we'll listen to it back.
but yeah, it's there was something about it. I mean, there was something about that moment at the end with Michael, and the thing about as a gay guy, and the idea of falling in love with your straight best friend, and then for whatever reason for it, because you know at the end that Billy is probably not going to come back to Michael.
No.
And so there was something really cathartic about that moment as well as the kind of the joy of seeing a character like me on stage. I think the only other thing I'd seen before then was Avenue Q, with Rod, and you know, and that whole story there.
If you were gay, that'd be okay.
And I loved that, and I loved Fantasies Come True as well, which is actually, let's put a plug in, the title of my book. There was something about Billy Elliot, and I was kind of, I think the reason I kept going back was that moment at the end, and trying to find an answer to it. How do you kind of, what happens for Michael next, and what happens for Billy next? And I think as I've got older, that like the idea that Billy, there's nothing in the show that says Billy isn't gay, and there's nothing in the show that says
true.
Michael is either, really, because of the age they're at. I mean, I guess
Come on,
Michael.
Michael is a big butty boy, them fire. Like, Michael is there. I think, like 100%. Is trying to. I mean, we can tiptoe around it, but then I think that's kind of like erasing what it is.
Yeah.
I think he definitely is. I mean, Billy, you don't know because he doesn't even want to get with Debbie. To be fair, but I would say with my chest that Billy's straight
like
and Michael's
young kids,
gay.
aren't they? And it's so,
But also, like, I think I like to normalize the fact that children actually do know. I knew.
I always
With
Yeah,
my
me too.
chest knew. Do you know what I mean? If anything, when I actually got to go on as Michael a couple, did you ever?
Yeah, I went on like 3 times.
Yeah, I went on a few times. So
And it was so good because obviously most of Michael's scenes are with Billy, so
Yeah.
it was easy if we ran out of Michael's to just put the Billy on because we knew the
Easy.
scripts, we knew the dance numbers. You just did it, but in reverse or in line 2 or wherever you needed to be.
Yeah.
Well, the first time though, was he not spooked? I was a bit like
was-
just being the opposite way. Like I was like,
But also,
It
I
was
remember
so
deep
much
in my
fun.
soul being like,
This is
I
me.
don't have to dance electricity tonight. As well. I was like,
and also I
it's
can
easy.
be. I mean, I probably wasn't. No, actually, I wasn't. I was a little lad in that show. I was a proper like angry little teenager lad, like
Yeah.
fresh off the estate. But when I played Michael, they probably were like, tone it down. Like, you're doing too much. I was like, I'm saving the show tonight. I'll do whatever the hell I want to do.
The knee-length skirt was a rah-rah.
Yeah,
You know
period.
He rolled that skirt
I think I did it with Tom Holland. I think, who else did I do it
God.
with? Yeah, it was so much fun. It was very Catherine Tate, like, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
It was the last resort, but I think me and you were the only ones that did that. Did anybody else?
I know the answer to this, sadly.
Leon
did. Leon
did.
was
There's
mine.
3 of us.
Leon did.
I'm sure maybe after we left, more people did it, but it wasn't that common.
Yeah.
And for some girls, it was just not. It wasn't for everyone.
And some people went on as Michael first and then played Billy afterwards, like permanently.
Who?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think who did it. Dean Charles Chapman did.
Oh, I thought it was the little.
He was the small
boy.
boy, and then he came back and played Michael, and then he came back and played
Oh,
Billy.
he did them all.
Oh.
We
He did
saw
them
him the other
all.
night, actually.
Yeah, we did.
The Clang, the Vogue event.
She's a fashion girl.
We saw him at Vogue.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's lovely, just
And
bumping
he's
into
not
people.
changed. He's not changed, Dean. He's just
beautiful.
literally like...
He was always beautiful, but
Yeah.
stunning.
Yeah.
And his chill vibes, isn't he?
Yeah. Super chill.
Just like us. No, you're more chill than me.
But it's one of the wonderful things about Billy, isn't it? Is that so many people have played that role, and so many people, as I was saying earlier, so many people have gone on from playing Billy or from playing Michael to go on to do all sorts of stuff. I mean, I was looking at there's a new gay character in Emmerdale. Yes, that's how old I am. I watch Emmerdale, and that's played by Lewis Cope, who played Michael.
Is
at
he
one
playing a gay
stage.
boy?
He is, yeah.
Really?
Hey.
I didn't know that. He did tell me that. That's hilarious. I kind of love that for him.
Yeah, well, I think
Love
when he went
Lewis.
into it, I think he didn't know that's what was going to happen with that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny. And what else was I watching? Waterloo Road, and one of the lads in that had played Billy before. As well.
Really?
Yes, I
Adam.
know exactly.
They're really good.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of scenes on BBC. I must say, like, I've not actually watched it, SARS, but
Yeah.
I follow BBC and BBC Three, etc. online, and they're always posting short clips and stuff, and they're really amazing. The 2 boys that are doing it together, they're really amazing actors.
Did you, not moving on from Billy, but do you know Sally Dexter, who played Mrs. Wilkinson?
Duh, she was mine. She was mine.
She's in a soap now.
She
Obsessed.
was in Emmerdale.
She was in
Yeah.
Emmerdale.
She's not anymore.
Is she coming back?
No, spoiler,
in
she's
Bad-
dead.
What's a Bad Sister? What was that called? What was it called?
Not a clue.
Bad-
Please
No,
elaborate.
Bad Sister, or was it one in prison? No, the
Bad Girls.
Girls.
Bad Girls.
She was in that.
loved
Yeah.
Bad Girls.
Yeah,
That was
Bad
one of
Girls
my,
is my
that was one of my
jam.
favourite TV shows. I always remember when I was a kid.
and
I'd be like-
Footballers' Wives
And I'd be like, Mum, please, can you let me stay up an extra half an hour to watch it? And she'd be like, all right, don't tell Dad.
and Shameless.
Yeah,
Bury them
stay up
days.
on a Wednesday night and watch Bad Girls with my mum on the sofa with
Because
with
they
a
were
tea and biscuits.
bad girls.
Bad girls.
And the
nails.
music,
If you're a fly girl, get your nails done, get a pedicure.
and the musical of that's what Sally Dexter was in, wasn't it? She did the musical version of Bad Girls, which was
Yeah.
I think Sally Dexter
Yeah.
was my no. Yeah, she was. Jackie Clune. I think Sally Dexter was my first and Jackie Clune was my second.
that would
And
be
my
right,
first one was Hayden Gwynn, who's
Yes.
now in the Windsors as well.
Yes.
She popped up on
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
On telly
All of the
the
Mrs.
other day.
Wilkinsons are doing
Booked
very
and
well as
bits.
well.
Booked
Yeah.
and busy.
Booked
Yeah.
and blessed.
But
yeah.
it's that's one of the great things that's kind of, I suppose, again, from being somebody that was really, really into it, knew every actor that was in it, all that sort of stuff, just because I'd been so many times. And it was one of the reasons how I got into musical theatre, is that I knew that show so well that I started to understand how swings worked and even things like, oh, the dead mum's wearing a different wig today. And all these kind of sorts of things, and it really kind of helped me to understand a little bit about how theatre worked. And so for me, that was the big stage for me, turning from a secondary school music teacher, which I was at the time, to being a university lecturer, and then whatever comes next. So
Yeah.
yes.
That. Oh, it's nice to have a little trip down memory lane. Good old,
Yeah.
we had a good old time, didn't we?
It is, and it's all so vivid in my head. Like, I remember so much of it, which I'm so glad for.
Yeah.
I remember so many moments of those amazing 2 years that we spent, in London.
And we've got to give you your flowers as well. Like, if it wasn't for you and obviously the OGs, we wouldn't have even had a job. So shout out to you, sis.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah.
If you're interested in LGBTQ plus representation in musical theatre, check out our website www.queermusicals.com for lots more information about musicals with LGBTQ plus characters. So I was really interested to find that you then worked together with the Car Man as well, and Matthew Bourne's work's become something that's been really important to me, since I've been in my 30s. I didn't watch it for ages because I thought, oh, it's dancing. No, I don't understand that. But actually, the Car Man is another really important piece of work, and actually a lot of Matthew Bourne's work. I think there's a lot in there that musical theatre could learn from in terms of the way that it treats gender and the way that it treats sexuality, and the fact that if I go and see a Matthew Bourne show, usually I know even if there's not a gay character at the front of it, there's going to be a gay character somewhere in the background.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can you tell us a bit about your experience with the Car Man?
I mean, the great thing about Matthew Bourne's work I love is that it's so heavy on narrative. Like, you know, it's storytelling at its best. And I think a lot of the characters that he does involve in his productions, that they are real characters, even if it's based on a classical story. So he has his Swan Lakes, his Cinderellas, his Sleeping Beauties, you know, but he transforms them in a way that like an audience can just really relate to those characters. You know, he brings it to like modern day, i.e., you know, the gay characters and the queer characters in his pieces. But obviously Carman was super special because me and Layton got to work together again. But in terms of like the story, it's, you know, the piece is based around like sort of fluidity within the characters, right? There's girls with boys and girls with girls and boys with boys, and you know, it's quite a sexy piece. It's quite a dark piece. I think it's a lot of people's favourite production to do and to dance. And actually, I think a lot of audience members, when you ask them, Carman always comes up. But you know, I played a character called Angelo, who basically he falls in love with the Carman. He's in this sort of he's in this relationship with Rita, who is more of like a best friend situation. He sort of loves her as a friend, and Angelo really goes through this journey of like being quite, you know, shy and timid and gets bullied a lot, and then he sort of finds this love with Luca, the Carman. And he goes through this whole journey, and he just basically transforms into a bit of a bad bitch, to be honest. And he comes out at the end a different man. And you come to realize he's like fully sort of embraced his sexuality, sort of thing. An amazing piece. I loved it.
Yeah, it was so good. Even obviously for me, I was just in the ensemble. I don't say that often, Chow. So
you played a little gay boy as well.
I did actually. No, Chad was my Marcelo.
Yeah,
Marcelo. Was it
Marco?
Marcelo was in it. That's why I got confused.
You need to check your CV.
I think I just put Carman. Period. I'm gonna put Carman Chad. Like people like don't know. But do you know what? I actually had the best time, and obviously I'm not going to go in. It's my second job with Matthew Bourne. I'm not going to expect to be going in with like, give me that role, which I actually was quite lucky. The first time I worked with him, I played this beautiful part in Lord of the Flies.
I remember seeing that, by the way, and I was blown away because I don't think I'd seen you on stage since a kid.
You've never seen me dance, really?
Yeah, but seeing Layton in that, I literally like bawled. You had such a beautiful solo in the second half.
I would love to do that again, actually.
That's one of the really few shows I haven't seen of Matthew Bourne. There's no video or anything of that.
Yeah, it was quite bam bam, like just it was such a special one as well. And actually, my character, I think he was a little bit.
Simon, wasn't it? You played Simon. Yeah,
there was something about him that was. I mean, the way I played him, I don't know. There was some fluidity in there.
But he was always an outsider in the original story, wasn't he? That's the whole point of the character, isn't it? So you could definitely read that into
Which could allude to that for sure.
But no, with the Carman, I just had so much fun. It was just nice to literally be a part of like the most incredible ensemble of dancers back in these lot, of course. But just. It was sexy, like, and I felt like for the first time I felt like a man on stage, not like a boy. Do you know what I mean? Like Lord of Flies, I felt like a boy. I think I'd done like Hairspray before that. That was still giving a bit like boy, teenage, woo, you know. And then I got to do this, and I was just like,
It's so true.
Yeah,
it was the same for me as well. I'd always done sort of like child parts. Even like my first adult job with Matthew Bourne was Nutcracker, where I literally played a child. And then I was like a licorice man, like I literally wasn't human. Then I played like fairies, like, you know, mythical creatures on stage. So like Carman was like, I'm in a beater and a sexy jean. That's hugging my ass in all the right places. And I feel
that vest on,
snogging men on stage. It just felt really
hot.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. I mean, I think with Swan Lake, which is, I guess, one of the other Matthew Bourne shows where there is a very clear queer relationship, although obviously it's between a boy and a swan, which is which is slightly different. But yeah, I think with the car man, it's really, that was the thing that really appealed to me as well, is that, you know, and particularly from a musical theatre background, you just don't see sexy gay men or gay men being allowed to be sexy on stage.
The
and
gasp when he comes out of the car is like iconic. The audience is like, they're not expecting.
Not
two boys. Yeah, I know, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then you've got, of course, the at the very beginning of it, you've got like nudity and all sorts of stuff going on with it. So it's a very adult show, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, and which I think is like, you know, I kind of wish there were more stories like that. Not necessarily with nudity, but, you know.
It's always nice to have a, you know, a little bit of a bum cheek or a little bit of a wiggle. I never did that, did you? I was preparing myself. I was going to do a production of Hair once, and then I was like, do you know what? It will be what it'll be. But then they were like, oh, you don't need to get naked. I was like, work.
Why? Because usually in
It's
Hair,
just a
they
concert.
get fully naked.
Yeah, it's just a concert. It's like, there's no need for us to be stripping right now, and you're not paying me enough money.
Also, it was freezing. It was outdoors. I
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you walked
Did
away
you
at my
see it?
solo.
I did, yeah.
You what?
You all left for the toilet before my solo. Anyway, we won't get into that.
I love that you remember that as well. Triggered.
Of course, it's literally my only solo.
I think we did catch it though. I don't.
Anyway, we won't argue on the podcast. Ciao. Murdered him again.
But that's one of the brilliant things, isn't it? That you kind of got this little group and you see each other in everything.
Oh, we see
and
everything.
It's just
Open
amazing.
nights, closing nights,
everything.
We are there, and actually between us, like, we all snatch each other's jobs as well. Like, it's actually crazy. There was this one moment where we literally all rotated. It was wild.
But which I love. You know, we've always from day dot supported each other, and I love that. Like, Layton will never miss a show of mine. I will never miss a moment of his.
And we love to travel.
We always show up for the girls,
Yeah.
don't we? We always show up and we travel. Yeah, we love it.
A little Berlin moment.
Ibiza
Mr.
moment.
Mistopheles. That was
Yes.
giving. What Ibiza was.
Not working.
Well, actually, technically, it was. It's a PR trip, my loves.
Yeah. But no, Layton came to Berlin to see me as Mr. Mistopheles, which I think, going back to queer representation, I think Mistopheles
Is a queen.
Is a queen.
Okay.
I do, even though he's a cat. You know, he's
Well, the way you played him, he was a queen.
you know, with the fan sort of wiki. This is what I got to know with, like, obviously with the cast. Apparently, the fans think that Rum Tum Tugger and Mistopheles, in like sort of fan fiction, they're like in a relationship. Or
Oh,
like
yeah, because he's like, he's quite, he's small, he's black. You know a lot about this cat.
Yeah, I think they allude
love
to
this.
them having a relationship.
Oh my God, I low-key love
And
that.
also the two kitty boys, like, why not? Why
I
the
really
hell
want to be
not?
your Rum Tum Tugger one day.
Dude, that
Can
would-
you
that
imagine
would
me singing while
die.
you're twirling? I'm hanging my ballet shoes up when it comes to all of them twirls and dives and leaps and moments, because Lord murder, like, I know my limits now, and I mean, I'm sure I'll be able to give it a good bash, but after seeing this one, there's just no need. So I'll give it Rum Tum a little
You give it
whack
vocals,
kick.
a whack kick.
Yeah, that would be so cute.
Yeah.
Listen, producers out there, make it happen.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, we'll do a Palladium run 6 months.
Thank you. 6 weeks. About 6 months.
It's like 6 days. That's enough for me.
6 shows. So there.
I love this thing is starting to happen now with musicals as well, where people are starting to kind of read characters and even cast characters differently to the way that they are traditionally. I mean, one of my big problems with musical theatre is how, particularly with ensembles, how it's very much boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. And what that does not only really limits the performers, but it also means that because you nearly always have equal numbers of boys and girls, it's always going to be heterosexual characters in the ensemble. And so I'm interested in I don't know whether this is a question that you can answer or whether this is, I mean, I'm sure you have actually danced same-sex duets before.
Yeah.
And thinking about, is there a difference between dancing as two male dancers between dancing as a male-female dancer, or is there a big difference there?
I think it does obviously adopt a different sort of way of moving, because naturally, all we've really known is a man and a woman dancing together, or a boy and a girl. We've not known sort of the bodies of two men dancing together, and I mean, you see it now. Like Strictly started to do their thing, and
Love that.
and you see it in like I mean, Matthew Bourne did it with Swan Lake in the 90s, you know, so there is sort of snippets out there and small little things. You don't really see it in classical ballet, actually, unless it's like Tybalt and Romeo sword fighting.
Yeah.
Sword fighting.
Didn't. Yeah, I think it's hot. I think it's so strong. Like, I prefer it personally because I prefer to be thrown about, and I want to give you the leg. I want to give you the back bend. I want to give. Whenever I was at school, I just always thought, like, I love my girlies. Obviously, shout out to my girls, but real girls, by the way. But I just was always like, I feel like a spare part in this piece, making you look amazing.
And I think that's what ballet is as well. I think the men are very much there to frame the lady and support the lady. And no offense, but when I go watch ballet specifically, I watch the woman because she is the star of the show. She is the main event, and the man is there to frame her and to make her look good and to make her like get her on her leg and etc. And then he might come out and bosh a little solo quickly, which is obviously incredible. And you actually have to be so strong to be the male as well as the woman. But yeah, like two men, it's interesting to create choreography with another male as well, because you know you can't throw each other above your heads because you know a guy's naturally heavier. How are we going to like move? How are we going to lift? What are we going to do in order to like you know create a duet? And that's really interesting when you're creating stuff.
Have you been involved in much creating of same-sex duets?
Yeah, so I did a show, just after lockdown, called The Midnight Bell.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah,
with Matthew Bourne, and I played a gay character called Albert, and I worked closely with Andrew Monaghan, who's another amazing artist in the company. And yeah, that was just amazing to sort of work with Andy and work closely with him on not only the narrative of the piece and literally draw an arc of our storyline, but to create movement as well. And we came up with some amazing stuff, great stuff that like made it into the show, and that was great. I think actually that was the first gay role that I played on stage that was very clearly written as a gay man.
Sure, yeah.
You know, other stories, like I think maybe the Prince in Swan Lake, I think he's only really inverted commas gay because the swan is male, but if you're looking at it, it's a swan. It's a creature.
It is a swan.
Whether it was female or male, but it's an animal. But maybe in the Prince's head it is a male.
Yeah.
It alludes to so many questions, that piece. It's like, you know, figure it out for yourself sort of situation. But The Midnight Bell was for sure two men falling in love.
Yes.
Which was great to state the obvious, you know.
Yeah, and it was beautiful the way that show ended as well, because in the end, it is quite a miserable show, The Midnight Bell, in terms of the way it finishes.
Oh my God, 100%. It was like depressing, dark. The characters were unhappy people.
Yeah.
You know, the inevitable of their stories was sadness, you know. And I think our characters were the only ones that had some sort of hope and some sort of future together, which was, again, lovely to sort of have that.
Yeah,
and to be the sort of positivity in that piece.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe or follow on your favourite podcast service. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter @QueerMusicals, or you can follow me @Dr. James Lovelock. I was going to ask you, Layton, as well, a little bit about going back into Bad Education and playing a queer character in a sitcom, which, again, you know, there have been plenty of, particularly in American sitcoms, and also being a writer on it as well, and how that's kind of working out.
Honestly, like, just so grateful and thankful and buzzing to be back. Like, I never my wildest kind of like imagination would have thought this would come back around and I would be fronting it, you know. So when I got that call, I actually was in Hull. I remember it so clearly. Jack Whitehall called me. I was in my digs in Hull. Very cute digs, actually.
What's cute? It has a stigma.
I know. I listen, I backed my little northern small towns. Like the first time I went there, I was a bit like, oh, what's it gonna give? But I had such a nice time down by the docks. My nana Gwen came, we bumped into your mumsy and your auntie. We had a good old time. But yeah, I was in Hull, and I just remember it. Like, the reason I remember it is because I was in Hull and Jack was in Hollywood, so it was giving very that Hull to Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? But I was about to go out there actually to do Jamie, so I was like, "What's?" And I said to him, I was like, "Am I on your mind? Have you been seeing me everywhere you drive around LA?" And he was like, "Yeah, I have actually." I was like, "Work," so I had not been there yet, and all the posters were everywhere. Anyway, it happened, and we got the green lit. And yes, I was in the writers' room this time. I got to be across all of the episodes as like in the writers' room, which meant we kind of like helped create even the characters, all the new characters we helped create. I've never been a part of something. I've never originated a part actually. Still, which is wild. Like. Anyway, like I've been so close, and then just something else happens, and I know I will one day, because I feel like I have so much offer when it comes to like a piece. Obviously, Stephen was already made and created, and we'd done how many seasons? 4 seasons plus a movie. But this time around, I got to be like, right, let's really run with it, and unapologetically, like a gay man, like a gay black man. Like we didn't really need to talk about it. There's obviously we had the odd joke here and there, but it's not like it was. It was just like, I'm leading the show and we're just going to vibe. And the carnage that we got up to, and honestly, the next season is going to be even more wild. So I'm really excited to get back on sets. I've got like, 4 or 5 weeks. And that's why I'm letting my hair down. We are having fun. We're outside.
Mr. Writer's chops, though.
I know. When I sent you the draft, I feel so that bitch. And I was in Hollywood when I set my first. No, I put it in the group, didn't I? I think it's like, guys, I'm about to write my first scene. I've set myself up. It's gorgeous, like poolside hotel situation. I was just like, I don't even know where to start. I was just like, what do I do? Like, and I just put Stephen.
That icon just flashing up and down the white page.
And then I was like, gada. And I wrote my opening scene, and literally I was just like, oh my God, like, I had a co-writer as well, which I was really grateful for. Shout out to Reese. And we got to collab and kind of bounce things off each other. But basically what we would do is I would have like the A storyline and they would have the B, or they would have the B, I would have the A, and we'd just like throw it to each other. And that's really, it's easier to bounce off. But I do feel quite confident to potentially work on a different show and actually give it a shot. But I'm not saying... I mean, did you see my Instagram the other day? I can't spell. Did you see? It was so embarrassing. Honestly, I like put a post up, and then there was a spelling error, and then I put another one up, and there's like another spelling error. And then it was like third time I said, you lot just need to leave me be.
Dragged by the fans.
Spelling bee, like, what is this? Like, I'm not out here trying to say I'm some A-star student. I think I barely got I got an A in English lit. Anyhow, it was amazing. I'm super excited to be back. There's just so much fun to be had with his character, and he's so unapologetically like his queer, black, beautiful self. Talking about the character, not me.
But as it should, and the character's grown in the I was going to say the piece, the TV show.
It's a piece, darling. It's a piece.
The 3-act play. No, but he's grown. You met Stephen as a schoolboy who's probably had many issues with being in that school, and he's blossomed into this like beautiful,
confident man. Yeah, it's just really wild. Like, honestly, who knows whether it's going to be the last one as well. So I'm just going to go in, have the best time, and enjoy the ride. Like, I've got an exciting year coming up, so it's given very much so. Enjoy the summer.
So are you filming from autumn?
From like August. Autumn? I don't understand
August.
Summer thing. Honestly, what sort of, like, I know summer.
You should know your seasons now. For the fashion girl.
I'm a fashion girl. I smell the clothes.
Spring, summer.
Also, what even is the season anymore in this weather? Are you mad? It's giving March snow. Do you know what I mean?
June chills.
Exactly. So.
But you're filming from August.
From August, I'm locked off. Yeah. So this is, and then we'll see what happens. Wink, wink.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, so I was going to kind of, to sort of round things off, I was going to ask you about maybe, I mean, I know you're probably not able to talk about plans for the future, so that's fine, but maybe like if there were dream roles or things that you'd like to do over the next however long, you know, what would be your dream for the next something to come up in the future?
I've always really been like, I'll take every moment by moment. I've never sort of, I find it really hard to like sort of stare into the future too far. Because I really live for now.
No, we're the same like that. We don't plan, do we?
I'm not a huge planner. Like, I genuinely like plan maybe like work-wise a year at a time. I mean, I guess that's maybe normal behavior, but I still want to perform. I love being on stage, but I've actually in the past like year or two have gone more into like sort of the movie route and been doing lots of sort of dancing for like film. Like I did Disenchanted for Disney and The Greatest Days, which is coming out this week or next week. But like to sort of have that experience in that sort of in that field, because that's really came for me at like post lockdown in going into more films, which I do love that side, and it's completely different to live theatre. So I sort of want to dive more into that, I think.
Can I also give you flowers that you're not really mentioning the fact that you slayed Mr. Mistopheles and it's your first musical theatre show since you were a kid. That is like a massive jump, and you would call me like, oh my God, you know, I have this thing about us like, Liam, you have always been that girl. You have an Olivier Award to prove that. You can sing, you can do it. You just got to zone back in. And honestly, watching you in Berlin, I was just like so proud. I was like, this is what you are also meant to be. So I think don't write yourself off when it comes to musicals as well. Like something like Newsies or something like, you know, very heavily danced shows. Call my girl Liam. Like that's what it's giving. So I was so proud of you doing that. Like it was unreal. Like wipes the floor.
Oh, truly. Thank you. Honestly, fangirls that big you up like this.
It's true. We are each other's like literal best, like biggest fans.
I had a moment when I was doing Cats, and I think I was just obviously one of my dream shows. I've always wanted to do it, and I sort of had a moment. I was like day 2 into rehearsals, and I came home and I felt like I bit off more than I can chew. I think it was just heavy on the music load, and you know I can go into a studio and slay the boots down when I'm like doing choreo, but
he means a dance studio, not a booth that we're in like this. Because some girls say studio, like the
the dance studio, and just sort of feeling like when I called Layton, I was like, just feeling a bit underconfident and a bit like shucky, and Layton was like, listen, bitch, you need to get in there. And
it all just goes in after. Even for me, I'm kind of used to, first days are always, let's get the scores out, let's learn the harmonies, and it's so overwhelming, even for them art-said gullies.
Like vocal chop girls.
Vocal chops. So like, if you've not done it since you were literally 12, and also back then, you weren't doing harmonies, you sang the lead. You sang the lead. It wasn't giving Jellicle out tonight, no.
I was not giving baritone, I was giving a melody.
You were giving melody, so we need to remember that. It's just new territory, but hey.
And that's what I thought, like, low-key, I got into that first singing call and I was like, Jellicles can and Jellicles doing melody, and they were like, no, you're baritone. You're like,
Jellicles can and Jellicles do.
And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this job anymore.
But will you feel more confident going into something like that now?
And like, week 4 of rehearsals, full studio runs, I was doing like a 5-part choir harmony in splits, like, and I was living, and it was just so like enjoyable. Yeah, it was amazing. So who knows? Maybe more musical theatre, but I think it has to be right as well.
Oh, 100%.
It always has to be right.
It's like John just went into MC. Of course, that is right.
Yeah.
Like our bestie John McCree, like it's just the most perfect role for him to go out of Jamie. It just makes sense.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that part was made for him. But yeah, sort of like see how the next year goes. Like, want to stay on stage. That's where my passion is. I love being on stage. I love being able to go out every night and feel completely different every night in front of different audiences. What about you, Mister?
Honestly, at this point, I'm so like, I don't know what genuinely, I'm like, let's get the story down. Like, but I kind of love it. I feel like I'm a little bit of a chameleon and jack of all trades, master of none. And I'm not shading myself. Like, I'm not fishing here, but I can give you a Matthew Bourne moment. I could give you a TV moment. I could narrate a show. I could potentially write a show. I could host something. I could present something. I could be in a musical. I could be in a movie. It's not that I don't care.
You don't stay in a box.
I don't want to stay in a box. I want my fingers to continue in pies because I get bored so quickly. And actually, when I'm doing stage work, not as much because we know every night you go out, it's a completely different show. I played Jamie for, 2.5, almost 3 years? Yeah. And that was, I went on forever. I got to do it in LA and people were like, are you not bored of that show yet? Or you're not tired? And I was tired, of course, because it was a hard work. But I was not. It didn't feel the same ever. Like different actors, different venues, especially on tour.
And you grow in that role as well. Like when I saw you in Jamie, your first show, like, God, when I saw you in...
on the wall.
You're a minga, Jamie.
You're a minga, Jamie.
You're a minga. But like the growth, oh my God, when I saw you in LA and just, I was bawling again, just obviously always do when I see my sisters. Like just to see the growth and like how far you come in that role. And
it takes a minute to sit in it, doesn't it? It's the same, same with you. When we always usually do the press nights in the beginning, and then when you see it towards the end, you're like, oh, now they know what they're doing. Now they know their time. It's like I didn't even sweat when I was in LA. Like not that I'm not giving it Billy Big Bollocks here. It was genuinely, I knew where I need to put my energy,
exactly.
And I knew when I didn't.
Yeah. But whereas your first show, you're like, and then you like get to your first quick change, and you've done 50 minutes on stage, and you're absolutely knackered. And you're going, I've got 3 acts, baby.
Relax.
Where's my energy? Relax.
Keep it like chill. Somebody said the other day, actually, I can't remember a conversation happened, but it's like you should be able to do the show on like 70%. Like, because if you're always giving 100, like sometimes you will gonna burn out. Like you should be able to kill it at 70, and like 30 is when you need to push here or there. Like, say if you're unwell or you're not feeling 100%, like, I mean, normalize putting the covers on because I'm so down for that, and having an alternate, that too. Yeah. But goodness knows, I do want to get back on stage.
Yeah.
Like, hello, it's been over a year now since I've like properly done a show.
And don't you think do you crave that when you do more like film stuff, like when you're behind the camera and you're on set, and it's a different energy when you get on stage and you go, woof, there's the applause. I live for the it's different. I do miss it. It just it has to be the right show because I've kind of set myself a standard in a sense. And I mean, by the way, I'm not saying it needs to be the lead. Trust and believe this. I will come and do the 11 o'clock number. In fact, I'll do the 9 o'clock number. Close the first act, and you will see me at the battles. Minicave, I know about the business. Like, it doesn't have to give Mary Poppins, but it just has to be the right role. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, goodness knows, maybe a dance piece, maybe a... I know actually, but I'm pretending that I don't. But that's not really the same. So, literally 2024 at this point, I'm just like, let's have it, and whatever it's going to bring, hopefully I'm just going to be passionate about it, and I'm just going to enjoy the ride. Maybe even I've got myself a US agent now, so maybe even something out there. I think that would be the next step for me.
The world is your oyster.
Exactly.
When I'm 30.
And I'll be, according to Layton, 56.
I love you, sis.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Pleasure.
And
Pleasure.
Good luck with whatever happens over the next year or so.
Thank you so much for having us. And also shout out to you. We've known each other for a long time, listeners out here. I used to teach for you in Wolverhampton every time I was on tour. Birmingham. Where else were we? I always
used to do Wolverhampton. Used to do
Stafford.
No, maybe not Stafford. I can't remember. There was another one you did.
Almost every show. You would always come and support, and I would always come to the college and the university or whatever and teach. And you've always been super supportive and like, I mean, not everybody is using their platform and their kind of knowledge to kind of really put us together. I did another moment with you with Alex Thomas as well, so Smith. So thank you for having us. We appreciate everything you do.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you soon.
Yay!
On next week's episode, I'm joined by Joe Foster, Jazz Terry and Aaron Showles from the cast of & Juliet.
Oh my God, we spoke about that. May needs No Tears Left to Cry, Ariana Grande after What Do You Want From Me. Imagine. Ooh, Britney.
Warm.
I'm warm, yeah.
Next episode will come out on Saturday the 15th of July. See you there.